So I want to welcome everybody, especially Rinpoche, who has been coming to our center for many years. But last few years we didn't see each other live, we just only see online. So now there is opportunity and we are happy that Rinpoche is with us. So we would like also to welcome Geshe Samden, who came this year with Rinpoche. And he came from France, from Shenten Darjeeling Center. And welcome and greetings to Geshe Gyatso, who is the resident Lama of our center and is with us, so we are very happy.
Good morning, everybody. I would like to welcome everybody back to continuation of the Hard Drops of Dharmakaya. So we have started this teaching, I don't remember, several years ago. So we went through word by word, right from the beginning till now, this part of the Pardo and Powa. I don't know how many of you have been here right from, I know many of you are here, but if there are new people or not. So anyway, the topic that I'm going to go through is mainly as a part of this Dzogchen practice, according to this Hard Drops of Dharmakaya. This is called Wangbo Ding Pardo Travi Dhamma, the instructions for the medium capacity people to liberate, to get liberation during the Pardo time. So that means the best capacity people supposed to attain liberation within this lifetime. So for those people, doesn't need to go through Pardo. Most of the major Dzogchen cycles contain the part of the teaching concerning with the Pardo and Powa. So this is because if a practitioner, without being able to complete his or her practice within this lifetime, happen to face the death, then this practice is supposed to help one to get liberation, this practice of Powa and Pardo. So therefore, in order to go through these instructions on the Pardo teaching, one already supposed to have instructions and already practice, some experience on this teaching within this lifetime. Basically, in the teachings of the Pardo, explains what kind of experiences one will have during the Pardo, what kind of visions, visual experiences, inner experiences, what kind of state one will go through. So if one has some experience of the practice, then how one can connect these experiences of Pardo with one's practice. That is the main instruction. So therefore, in order to train these instructions of the Pardo, one must pay more attention in the training and practice within this lifetime to get familiarized with the practice. So normally here in the text says Rangshinji Pardo, Chigi Pardo, Peniji Pardo, like Rangshinji Pardo or natural Pardo, which is referred to sometimes as Nebatsei Pardo, Pardo of this lifetime, Pardo of lifetime. Yeah, Rangshinji Pardo, natural Pardo. Chigi Pardo, it means Pardo of the point of the death. And then Peniji Pardo means Pardo of the natural state. Peniji Pardo further could be classified as Kada Pungu Pardo and Penyi Osaji Pardo. Pungu Pardo is Pardo of Dharmakaya and Pardo of clear light. And then it can further classified as another Pardo called Sipi Pardo, Parosipi Pardo. Pardo of existence or Pardo of rebirth. So therefore, the most important, whether one will be able to manage, integrate one's practice in the pardo state while at the point of the death, pardo of the point of the death, or pardo after the death, or not, depends on one's how much one is familiar with this practice during this lifetime, how much one has trained during the pardo of the lifetime. The Mother Tantra has said, never say pardo tosam gomla nendeches. In the pardo of the lifetime, one must strive on the practice of listening, the reflection, the meditation. So that is what we try to do actually. Everyone, those who have come here, who are listening on the Zoom, we try to listen, try to understand the teachings of the Buddha, and we try to practice it as much as possible. So that is what we are doing. But still, it is very important to take it seriously and really try to do, to make sure that you get the essence of the Dharma through your listening, participating to the teachings, and practicing yourself. For that, it is very important to not only just collecting and listening many informations, but try to really get some essence of the Dharma practice to ripen, to mature within ourselves. So in the Mother Tantra, it says that no matter how much joyful, difficult one's life may be, how long or short we may live, how much busy or leisure time we have. So ultimately, everyone, without exception, should go through the point of the death, through the point of the pardo of the point of the death. Birth, we have taken our birth already. Most of us, we don't remember. We under different circumstances, everybody have taken our birth. And we live this life, in different circumstances. Some are happy, some are unhappy, some are healthy, some are not so much healthy. Some feel content, some feel dissatisfied of one's life, no matter whatever it is. So important thing is we must recognize whatever positives, good things we have in our life. First, this is very important step for spiritual practice. So everybody has these positivities. No matter how much one feel oneself deprived of all the good things or positivities, how much one feel with too many problems. But if you try to observe, and we always find good things in us. So what the Buddha has pointed out is that even having this perfect senses in us is the great gift or great the fortune for our life. This is very important. So therefore, right from the beginning, you have heard this many times, importance of reflecting and acknowledging the precious human birth, preciousness of human life that we have obtained. This is very important. We must, if we think about our problems, there are enough things that we can, remember, we can go through. But we rarely think about all the good opportunities, potentials, and positivities that we have in ourselves. So therefore, it is first step, right from the beginning, we must appreciate and acknowledge our precious human life. And then secondly, we must think about the impermanence of this life. We must acknowledge impermanence of this precious human life. Even though this life is very precious, we have great opportunities, many good things, but none of them are going to be there forever. If we reflect back in our life, how much things have changed, how much have changed many things in ourselves, physically, emotionally, mentally, and external conditions, families, friends, all these things. Every time, constantly keep changing. Nothing remains permanent and without change. How much have changed things in last 2 years, in many dimensions, many aspects of our life. There was a big, the disease, no?
Yeah, infection, pandemic.
Yeah, infection, yeah. And then followed by the wars, and everybody is terrified and worried, concerned, and feels uncertainties. All these things. These are something, even the gross things that we can see. But in subtly how much things are changing day by day in our self, that we must reflect about these things. And reflect, not only just reflect in the surface or thinking, okay, this is, I know, but try to, deeply meditate and feel all these unfavorable, unfortunate circumstances were fallen into myself, For example, during the last 2 years, during the COVID time, how many people were suffered? Everybody has suffered, but there are many people suffered more. Many people lost their lives. Many people become, totally, with their, changes mentally and emotionally. So if this happened with me, with us, it is possible, If it was me, what kind of preparation we have? How I would react, What kind of situation I may be now? We have to think in this way when we reflect about the impermanence. But this is not question of making oneself feeling depressed and thinking about all the unfortunate situations. But this is the way to open ourselves up instead of closing and try to closing your eyes. Closing our eyes doesn't give any solutions and doesn't make us free from the situation. So instead we just face and try to, see its essence. So that is the meaning or the purpose of the practice of impermanence. We have heard these practices many years, everybody. First, we call Tanjo Nyekawa Samba, reflections on the preciousness of the human life, and then meditation on the reflection on the impermanence of the human life. Yeah. These things are very important. I just wanted to remind you, we went through all these instructions and practices, but we must remind us with this ourselves again and again. Okay, so these things are very basic things that we must remember and remind ourselves. And then on the basis of this, we should feel there is no time for us to be just leisure, One must strive as much as possible in practice, according to the practice, according to what you know. So practicing and doing meditation doesn't mean always that you have to have great realization of the natural state. Of course, as a Dzogchen practitioner, that should be our main focus. But before reaching there, we must go through any other practices, whatever is good in us, starting from Guru Yoga, refuge, bodhicitta. These things are practice that can always keep ourselves positive and connected with the spiritual and connected with the three jewels, because particularly the refuge is the foundation of all our practices, Refuge. If someone who followed the Buddha Dharma teachings and practice of the Buddha, then one must have this refuge. So in order to keep this refuge, refuge commitment or whatever you have taken, and we must practice this regularly. Remember 3 jewels, remember the teachings and practices, and as much as possible try to meditate and think about that. And then otherwise one can connect with this by means of the recitation of the prayers, recitation of the mantras, which many of you are doing. So that is very good. So then only just reciting or saying only prayers, but without going further, will not take long way also. So these are the very important way to connect and to step up. But if one stays only just that limitation, then it will still not bring further progress. So therefore, Pórösán Gomlan in the pardo of the lifetime, one must strive to the practice of listening, reflection, somebody's reflection or analyzing, and then meditation. This is what we have to do during the pardo of the lifetime. So now, in our case, according to context of this, teaching, we went through this hard drops of Dharmakaya. Right from the beginning, we started with the, Korde Rishe, external Korde Rishe, internal Rishe. We already explained. And then the training with the body, speech, mind. I don't know if you remember or not, but if you not, you can just remind. We must try to go through this. And then we went through the introduction of the natural state, teacher practice. Then eventually we went through the practice of the Tögal. So I don't know if you remember or not. So there are so many practices that we have to do. Don't say I don't have any practice to do. What do you remember most last few years of teaching on the hard drops? Natural state? Yeah, that is best. You just remember, or you just you also have some taste. So we said Korde Rishe, external Korde Rishe, internal Korde Rishe. We remember, right? More or less what is this practice. Internal Korde Rishe is actually the purification practice of the 6 lokas. Then we say training with the body, speech and mind.
Później mówimy o treningu,
We remember training with the body,
na
speech,
przykład
speech as 4, and then mind. Mind training includes the senji, the fixation of 9 different aspects of the fixation of the mind. And then there comes the actual practice, the texture, introduction of the natural state. Yeah, then all the practices like Tagum Chode, these instructions of that texture with the 4 aspects like meditation, the view, meditation, conduct and result. And then it comes the Tögal practice. Tögal practice are detailed, very detailed explained by way of explaining the 42 key points of the Tögal practice with the different metaphors. Okay, so we just finish all these instructions. Now the essence of these practices, no matter how it is explained in what kind of dimension or aspects these practices are explained, but essence is that to recognize our own true natural state of the mind. That is the essence of the texture practice. Okay, the introduction of the natural state of the mind. So you remember? I don't know. Can you show me your natural state? And then Tögal practice is a little bit more extended part of this texture, we can say. It is no different, no other than texture, but it is more extended, we can say, like extended practice of the texture. When we say texture and Tögal, texture is mainly emphasized. Meditation in the natural state, abiding in the natural state itself. And then Tögal is a practice while you are abiding in the natural state, in the state of texture. At the same time, you also apply certain method through which we can directly experience the natural light, the luminosity of the natural state of the mind that is arisen in the in appearance or in form of light, rays, and sound, etc. So these light, rays, sound are not separate phenomena, not a phenomena separate from the natural state itself or the Rigpa. They are the natural, light,
Sono nel
the
naturale,
dynamic energy of the Rigpa, which could be, which we normally in our ordinary condition don't experience directly because of our gross form of body, emotions, and mental state. So this becomes like an obscuration for us to experience this dynamic, subtle, and pure energy of the Rigpa. The most pure form of the dynamic energy and most kind of complete, experience of this total experience of the dynamic energy, we can say in the state of the Buddha. So, however, we can also experience it within this lifetime, So, with the application of these Toggle methods or with in the state of the Pardo. In the state of Pardo, especially in the Pardo of Dharmakaya, all our ordinary, of course, physical body is completely dissolved. All the gross elements and emotions, thoughts, and everything is dissolved back to the Kuiji or the Rigpa state of the Kuiji. So therefore, one can experience purely this state of the Rigpa. And then all these sound light rays, the dynamic energy of the Rigpa, also could be experienced, directly and without any condition or limitation during that time. So when this experience, one faced with this manifestation, it is crucial to recognize, this in the way it's as it is. So therefore, we must train within this lifetime. Otherwise, it is not easy to recognize. Like how much difficult it is for us even to get lucidity in our dream. When you dream something, you cannot recognize it. So if we were able to have lucidity, lucid in our dreams, the situation of our dream would be completely changed. Perspective of our life would be completely changed. But this does not happen. But it is possible, in the dream. If we are able to recognize whatever dream you have as your dream, or this is dream, without being carried by the belief or seeing the dream as if it is real. Usually, when we dream, in the dream we think this is real. We believe, we go in that way. So, if we were able to recognize the dream, lucid your dream, the situation of your dream would be different. And that makes our life, perspective of our life would be completely different. Can you imagine? Yeah, if every night, whatever dream comes in you, you are able to lucid, able to recognize this as a dream, what would happen? What kind of experience you would have? It would be totally different. It is exactly same. Pardo state is more or less similar, that of dream. So if we cannot recognize dream as a dream, in the Pardo, we cannot recognize this as a Pardo. We cannot recognize this as, the visions of the Pardo. So we would have like habitual kind of grasping or belief of things as real. And we continue to get delusion, grasping and follow, after the senses and objects. So that is how we get, deluded again circulate in the samsaric condition. Okay, so therefore, in order to get this integration or recognition in the Pardo experience, we must train. So in order to train that, then with the practice of Thogal, methods, we make ourselves directly experience these killer lights. So killer light that can develop in different forms and different dimension of the light. That is similar to the experience of the Pardo, the light and the dimension of the Pardo.
Dlaczego? Dlatego, że to
Pardo
jest,
of clear light, for example. So if one gets more familiar and able to integrate with the practice with this clear light that we experience during our lifetime, then when we face after the death or during the dying time and after the death, these lights, this experience of light is nothing but same as what you usually integrate with your practice. So that is the main purpose. So therefore, during the lifetime, Pardo of lifetime, we must meditate, practice to get familiarized with the practice, principally with the natural state. Then, as a Dzogchen practitioner, maybe with the Thogal lights, Thogal experiences, so that in the Pardo time, you can easily get integration with the situation. So now these instructions that on the Pardo that comes here, we can explain the Pardo in different way and different aspect. But in this text, particularly given instructions on the aspect of how these clear lights of the Pardo would manifest, how one can, as a practitioner, come to recognize each aspect of this clear light and what kind of liberation one can attain. So therefore, we can go through this, but in order to have real kind of sense to connect ourselves, some sense of understanding with this, we must have to have some experience with the practice of the Tekche and Thogal. Otherwise, all this explanation would remain like a story, but still we can go on if you want. Yeah. So Pardo could be explained as like ordinary experience. But ordinary experience of Pardo explaining what is point. When it happen, it will happen. All the explanation we made would not help unless if we are having some good, progress or practice. If we have good progress or practice, then it is good. So that is the purpose. So if one doesn't have, then just like story. So especially when dying time, people are more interested in what will happen during when someone dies, what kind of experiences one would have, and how one can help to the dying person. Maybe this can be more helpful. But still, all the explanation that we give here is from the perspective of the spiritual practice. So therefore, it is very much connected with the spiritual practice. So if someone is connected in this way, then it can be good. We can have short break before proceeding the